What's up, party people? I just got back from the book sale. Okay, they had one at the library. Luckily at the library in my neighborhood, so it wasn't too far of a drive. And I skipped these books ahead of the ones I have on the floor, just because I just bought them, so why not? First up, we got... Oh, I also didn't finish reading anything this week, so sorry. But I do have a short story for you. And last week, on the video, I was rightly accused of Donald ducking it, which, if you don't know what that is, it just means that you're dressed up on the top and not on the bottom. But this week, I promise, dress pants. So I'm innocent this week, at least. Okay, so first up, we got some psychology books, and I already have them, but I couldn't resist because A, I can give them away to friends for free. Or I can bring them into another bookstore and get credit. Because the book sales are so cheap, right? It's like $1 a book. So if you see a book that you would want to give away or could get you credit, it makes sense to buy it. So the first two up are some by Jung and Freud. So the Jung is the undiscovered self. It's like a pretty short little paperback. It's about the individual in society. I don't really know what the main thrust of it is, but yeah. I already had this, but, you know, how could you not, right? So, might bring this into a bookstore and get some in-store credit. Next up, we have Freud's Interpretation of Dreams, which I believe is one of his most famous texts, maybe alongside Totem and Taboo, and his one on sex. I forget what that one's called. Anyways, this one, you know what? I won't stand for the Freud hate. I understand that he said some weird stuff, and I'm not on board with everything he said. But people just tend to hate on Freud with one fell stroke, and they don't understand that they owe a lot to him, right? Like this text, published in 1899, that date will come up again later, but it established basically the common conception that we are not only driven by our conscious mind, but also our unconscious mind, right? Freud is the guy that kind of like coined that and like made it acceptable in the West. So you owe more than you think to Freud. Yeah, this is also the text that established the Oedipus complex, so famous for multiple reasons. But yeah, it's in my favorite, I'm not sure if my favorite, but one of my favorite editions, which is the white matte Oxford Classic. So yeah, great pick up there. Next up, we've got some philosophy. We have the Kierkegaard Anthology, edited by Robert Brettel. Almost didn't even see this one, because it was in the fiction section. Not sure who organized it, but anyways, there's a lot of different fragments in here. Now, I'm very split on anthologies because I really like having the original text in their full, and I feel kind of cheated if I only have like an excerpt of it. But in terms of like nonfiction, it's a pretty good way to go, right? Because let's say that I have, or an author has like 30 books. How long is it going to take me to actually get to all of those realistically, to read them all? Whereas if I have an anthology, it does feel like I'm being cheated a bit, but at the same time, maybe I'll actually read everything. And the editor has done all the heavy lifting and gone through and extracted the good bits. I'm not even going to read everything that is in here, but there's a lot of titles, right? Now, I already have some Kierkegaard. I have Purity of the Heart is one thing. I have, I think, Either Or, and then I have Sickness Unto Death, which is like his most famous work. But there's everything in here, right? They have all those I just mentioned. They have the journals, edifying discourses, repetition, fragments, works of love. Yes, so much stuff. Training in Christianity, Attack on Christendom, Unchangeableness of God, which looks like it's in full. Anyways, yeah, so really great. Looking forward to one day diving into this. Yeah, I actually don't really read a lot of philosophy. I have a half shelf of it, so I have a fair amount, but yeah, I don't really dabble as often as I'd like to. Anyways, next up we've got a non-canonical scripture from, allegedly, thousands and thousands of years ago, the great-grandfather of Noah, I believe. Or no. Yes. Anyways, I forget if it's Noah or Moses. But that's the Book of Enoch. Okay, now it's a little short, okay? But this is a very foundational text in the Jewish mythology, cosmology. It talks about angels, the fall, the flood, the Nephilim. Lots of interesting stuff in here. And it's short, so maybe I'll get to it sooner than later. But yeah, this is like super interesting. Anyways, yeah, I'm not sure I can say much more about it. I haven't read it, so. But yeah, looking forward to this one. Next up, we have something I had never seen before, never even heard of, but it was in the Oxford White Classic, right? So I just bought it. And that's H. Rider Haggard's King Solomon's Mines. And I didn't know what I'd gotten myself into when I bought this, but apparently it's the first of 14 novels about the protagonist. So I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to collect all of those, but hey, who knows? Anyways, this is a book about some Europeans that go traveling through Africa. To just some guy got lost and they're trying to find him. Now Haggard was European guy, English I believe, born, I don't know, 1850s. So he kind of was on the tail end of the Victorian era when he was writing. He was the pioneer of the like lost civilization genre, where people like, you know, go into the jungle and they find like a preserved ancient civilization, which is kind of cool. And this book, actually, the protagonist in this book, I forget the name of him, Alan Quatermain, he was the inspiration for Indiana Jones. So, little interesting tidbit, cultural connection there, I guess. So, pretty cool. Yeah, it doesn't look too long. So, actually, the text is kind of small. Who knows? Yeah, it looks good. Next up, we have some Nabokov. This is also something I didn't almost see because the cover design is so bad that I would not normally even look twice at a book like this. But I did, thankfully, and because I buy all the Nabokov I can. And that is Letters to Vera. Now, I assumed that it was everything he wrote was fiction, and I think that's actually true. But this is not fiction. It's his love letters to his wife over the course of, what, 20, 30 years? I don't even know. So Nabokov was born in Russia, and then he moved to Berlin for school. And while he was there, he was engaged to this other lady. She broke off the engagement because her dad wasn't sure if Nabokov would be able to provide for her. I'm not sure if at that point he knew he was going to be an author. But if if I knew my daughter was going to marry somebody who's an author, I mean, I understand the reservations, right? It's not really a high-paying position. So she broke off the engagement. A few months later, he met another girl, that being his wife, Vera. And yeah, they fell in love. Two years later, got married. So pretty cool. Also, I feel like some authors, now this is a total caricature, but oftentimes tend to be like not authors, but the artistic type, right, tends to be a bit more sensual and inconsistent. And so artists like fall in and out of love, and they have these moments of passion, and then they kind of don't follow through, and there's affairs and all sorts of things. So it's kind of refreshing to see Nabokov being married to the same lady for his whole life. That's great. But yeah, this is pretty thick, honestly. Like, how many pages is this? Like 600? 700? 750. Yeah, so he wrote a lot of love letters to his wife, and a lot of, I think there's supposed to be drawings in here too. Anyways, yeah, pretty cool. Not sure if I'll read this anytime soon, but it's a nice little thing to add to the Nabokov collection. Next up, I'm sorry to show this one. I have sacrificed my masculinity. But may it be for the greater good. Maybe one day, if I have a daughter, when I have a daughter, she can read this. And that is a nice hardcover copy of Little Women. Now, I don't want to say too much about this because I know a lot of people love it, and I don't want to say anything wrong. I don't want to offend anybody on this topic. Now, I have nothing wrong with offending people. But on this topic, I will let it rest. All I will say is that it's the famous American coming-of-age novel of four girls living... Where do they live? Somewhere in America. Somewhere when it gets cold, I think. Because there's some Christmas themes in here, I thought, at one point. And whether it's the beginning or just a chapter, I'm not sure. But anyways, maybe I'll read this Christmas and get into the holiday spirit. You know, it's supposed to be a sentimental book. It's a book for kids. So maybe it'll be some nice light reading. Who knows? No promises. Next up, again, so close, but pure disappointment in the end. So I regret my decision. No, do I? No, I don't. Actually, I don't regret it. But a few weeks ago, we talked about Scott F. Fitzgerald and how I thought he was a lady, but it's actually a man. And he only wrote 4 novels. complete novels in his whole life. So when I found this complete set of hardcover Fitzgerald, I thought, wow, all 4 of his books, a complete set, and it's beautiful canvas hardcover for $8 because they're $2 each. Absolutely. And then I got home and looked up the names of his 4 novels, and there's one missing because the last one here, The Last Tycoon, is an unfinished posthumous novel, and his second novel, The Beautiful and the Damned, is missing from this set. And that's why probably it was being sold. So very disappointing. I probably will never find the missing book in the set because it's so specific. But yeah, just pure pain. Pure pain. Anyways, yeah. I mean, we talked about Great Gatsby already. We talked about Tender as the Night. This Side of Paradise, I think it's just pretty similar to the other 2. You know, just like people getting in trouble, Jazz Age America, Chicago, New York kind of thing. Yeah, don't really have much to say on them until I read them, of course. But yeah, what a beautiful set. What a tragedy that the set was broken. Anyways, yeah. Whew. Gonna take a few nights to sleep off that one. Lastly, but not leastly, we have O'Connor, right? Back again. This week I read A Stroke of Good Luck. And it was very good. I liked it. I don't think it was related to the Wise Blood, which, if you've been tuning in the last few weeks, we have been bamboozled. We've been reading short stories from O'Connor that have been connected because they were used as the seed for her first novel, Wise Blood. And I didn't know that, and they were... At first, I didn't know that. Then I realized because all the names kept being the same, and it was kind of confusing. Anyways, I don't think this one's related, and if it is, I have no reason to believe so because the names were not the same. Now, this one is about a middle-aged fat lady, which you might think, and the whole short story is just her trying to get up the stairs, which almost sounds like a meme, like O'Connor is like just pulling our chain, but it's not. It's actually pretty good. So the main character named Ruby, she's 34. She has some interesting fixations that we learn about throughout the book, but she is quite unhealthy. Now, I'm not sure exactly when this is set, maybe 1950s or 60s, America, in the South. Now, I'm not sure if they knew too much about exercise back then. I mean, when was the jazzercise with like the, or the tight neon fit? That was like the 80s, right? So maybe a few decades too early to actually be in shape. But yeah, Ruby is rotund, and her husband likes it, so he doesn't really push her to lose weight. And she lives in an apartment complex, and she often sees a medium, which does palm reading, or a palmist, I guess, not a medium, but probably does both. The palmist predicted good luck in a few months. Now, Ruby thinks that means they're going to move, because she really doesn't like going up all those stairs. 4 flights, 28 stairs per flight is a lot for her, in her condition at least. And so she thinks the good luck is going to be that they're going to move, and she wants to go in the suburbs. And so she first starts up the stairs, and she's huffing and puffing. Now, we get a bit of her backstory. She hates the doctor. Now, she knows she's sick, but she doesn't want to see the doctor. It's not really explained why. We are shown a scene in her childhood where she's being dragged to the doctor, and she's kicking and screaming and escapes and runs away. I'm not sure if they give a plain answer on why she hates the doctor, but she just thinks that she's able to take care of herself, and she doesn't really want to see the doctor. For some reason, also, she keeps trying to convince herself that she's not sick, even though she knows she's sick, so she keeps saying, no, it's fine. It's definitely not cancer. It's probably heart problems. I want it to be heart problems, because that way they can't take your heart out, right? So, and as she's reflecting on her probable sickness, she keeps, dissing doctors and, saying, oh, they're just going to poke and prod me. They're not going to help. I can take care of myself. And then she stops at the first flight of stairs, and she has to take a break, right? So she is, not that she wants to see this guy, but it's kind of good that she does, because she gets to take a breather. It's this really old scholar guy who lives in one of the rooms, and he's so lonely that whenever someone comes by, he hears them, he opens his door and tries to berate them with facts and different, just someone to talk to, right? So he kind of is like, oh, guess what day it is? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, it's, I don't know what his name, or it's the founding of Florida or whatever, discovery of Florida. That's what day it is. And she's like, cool, how was I supposed to know that? Anyways, they talk a bit, and apparently the guy that discovered Florida was looking for the Fountain of Youth. And Ruby is kind of intrigued by this idea because obviously she feels that she's quite young at 34, but yet is very out of shape and very fat and feels like she's going to die. And so then she asks, well, is it real, the Fountain of Youth? She's not very smart. And then this old crotchety scholar is like, no. Like, what? And then he like changes his mind. He's actually, yes, it is real. I found it. It's inside my heart. And she's like, blah, like phooey. And then just kind of goes up the next flight. Of course, she struggles every few steps. And then on the next flight, she barely makes it. She's like all dizzy, tunnel vision. She knocks on the door of kind of a friend of hers, an acquaintance. I forget the name, Levine, I think it is. Some 30-year-old lady. And she's kind of an odd duck, but charming enough, I suppose. And she keeps teasing Ruby, the fat lady. Because Ruby, I had left this out, but Ruby's brother is in town, and he's kind of like a loafer, doesn't really do much. He was in the army for a bit, but not really good for much, and he's only 20, and this 30-year-old Levine is like, your brother's hot, I might go see him later. And she's like, maybe he'll like my shoes. And Ruby's like, stay away from him, like, you're way too old. He's just an infant. And then Ruby is like, oh, like, I'm sick, like, stop joking around, like, I just need to, like, rest a bit. And she's like, oh, like, my chest and stomach hurt, like, my ankles are swollen. And Levine looks at her ankles, like, yeah, your ankles are very swollen. And then she starts, like, doing this, like, interpretive dance, and it's, like, yelling out, like, mother, mother. And then Ruby's like, no, I'm not pregnant. And for some reason, for her, like, she really, really does not want kids. So she's, like, all up in a tizzy about, like, I'm not pregnant, I have heart problems, or like maybe it's cancer. Like, she really just doesn't want it to be a kid. We're not really told why, again. I mean, of course, she's kind of frivolous and self-centered and kind of stupid. But anyways, we aren't really given an exact reason why she doesn't want kids. Oh, actually, no, I lied. We are given the reason why she doesn't want kids, and that's because she has a memory of her mother having a lot of kids. Half of them die, and every time she has a kid, her mother looks more and more deathly. And so she has this association in her mind that there's like a finite amount of life, kind of, and that every time her mother gives birth, she like loses some of that life, and that like she becomes like old and like dried up and wrinkly, and like just like is gonna die because she just had too many kids, which doesn't make sense, obviously. I mean, maybe it was true in her case. She didn't take the pregnancies well, I'm not sure, but yeah, there's this association she has where she thinks she has a kid, then she's gonna like shrivel up into a raisin and just become like lose 20 years. And then Levine's like, I bet you actually have twins, and she's like, no. So yeah, it's a funny scene, of course. And then she finally like makes her way up the stairs again, and there's this like 8-year-old kid that lives in the same complex, and he's ripping around like causing trouble, and they bump into each other, and she's like, ah. Anyways, how does it end again? I forget how it ends. No, I'm gonna botch this. Yeah, I think she just ends with her like on the stairs, like staring down at the kid who's like ripping around the building, and she's just like really trying to deny the fact that she's pregnant, and she's kind of holding on to this good fortune that the palmist predicted for her life. It's going to be moving. It's not a baby. It's going to be moving. And she kind of is just like becoming hysterical. And that's the end of the story. So yeah, it's kind of comical, that one. Entertaining, of course. And yeah, that one was probably on par with the turkey. Like one of my favorite ones so far. So yeah, really good. Really liked it. Yeah, that's it. So for this week, we had the haul, we had the short story. Will I finish anything for next week? Good question. I am reading Dostoevsky, how do you say it? Not quite sure. Brothers Karamazov. We're doing that for book club though, so my speed at which I can blast through it is kind of limited. Next week when I'm recording this. So like 2 days later for you. We have our first meeting on it. It's in, I don't know if you know Brothers Karamazov, it's divided into 4 parts, around 200 pages each-ish. And so we're meeting based on the parts, right? So that one I probably won't finish till the new year. But I'm also reading a couple poetry books. Those take a while to get through. So I definitely won't finish those for next week. I want to start Goethe's Elective Affinities, which the text is actually fairly large in that one, so I don't think I'll finish it by next week, but maybe I will, but it might be 2 weeks, but yeah. Otherwise, that's about it. Don't really have much more to report, but yeah, thanks for tuning in. And you know, one more thing. I have been writing some short stories of my own. So maybe look out on the channel for me reading 1 or 2 of those. And if you like them, you should subscribe to my Substack, where I post essays, short stories, and then a monthly newsletter called Reality Check. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.